Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Barakah Kodash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders, a great millstone who ruled and teach well, and peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off with an article from RT.com titled, New START Treaty with U.S. officially extended until February 2026 as Moscow hopes for new chapter in global stability. But when you understand the scriptures, there will be no hope for global stability. The only thing to look forward to is lamentations, mournings, and woe. This is Isaiah 55 verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. And one of the things that was prophesied to happen in the scriptures is a nuclear war, a World War III. This is Revelation chapter 9 verse 12. One woe or destruction is past, speaking of World War I, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter, World War II, which is past, and this upcoming World War III, which again will be nuclear, and no peace treaties or peace talks or anything like that will happen to avert this third woe from taking place. And this third woe is going to take place after the mark of the beast, which is the RFID/NFC microchip implant, is mandatorily implemented. And with the way things are going with this whole C-19 situation and the jab, every day we're getting one step closer to the transition to the mark of the beast microchip implant. Let's get back to that article. The extension of the New START nuclear arms reduction agreement with the U.S. will go into effect today, Moscow has announced, praising the deal as a step in the right direction for international stability. The Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement that the treaty was formally signed without any amendments or additions, in effect preserving the arms control accord as it currently exists until February 5th, 2026. The ministry hailed the diplomatic breakthrough as a cornerstone of international security and expressed hope that it would leave behind the trend towards dismantling of arms control and non-proliferation mechanisms. Again, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void. Behold, one woe is past, and there come two woes more hereafter. And that third woe, which is going to be nuclear armed, is quickly coming upon us, which had become prevalent during the years of destructive U.S. policies. And as you see, when there's always talks of nuclear confrontation, it's mainly between the U.S. and Russia, who are going to be the two main players during this upcoming third woe. Last week, Russian President Vladimir Putin signed a bill extending the arms control agreement after negotiations with U.S. President Joe Biden resulted in a 5-year extension of the accord. The treaty was at risk of expiring after the previous U.S. administration under Donald Trump had refused to prolong it without preconditions that were deemed unacceptable to Moscow. Implemented in 2011, the new Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty, known as START, limits the number of nuclear warheads and their delivery vehicles that the U.S. and Russia are allowed to possess. The agreement is considered virtually the only remaining arms control agreement between the two nuclear powers. And during Trump's presidency, a lot of these nuclear peace treaties and nuclear weapons reduction treaties fell apart. And that's all through the will of Yahweh Bahashim Yahushai to push these heathen nations closer and closer to that nuclear armed third woe. And if you also haven't noticed, you've got Russia and the U.S. building back up their nuclear arsenals. Just going to show the futility of these treaties that the heathens are trying to put in place to avert a nuclear war. The Avant-Garde hypersonic glider, Satan II, the Dongfeng 21, which is a new nuclear capable missile that China came out with. You had the U.S. building smaller nukes for their naval forces, talking about building what's that word? Talking about building up their naval and air capabilities for nuclear weapons, etc., etc. Secretary of State Anton Blinken announced on Wednesday that the United States has signed off on the extension, describing the move as the first step toward restoring U.S. leadership on arms control and non-proliferation. In a statement, Blinken said that preserving the New START treaty makes the U.S., its allies, which are going to turn against the U.S. in that day and shoot their nukes onto her, and the whole world safer, noting that unconstrained nuclear competition would endanger people of all nations. And unconstrained nuclear competition, that third woe, is going to endanger people of all nations, mainly you heathen nations. Hey, and on top of that, mainly you Edomites, or so-called white people, especially in America, which is biblically known as Babylon the Great. When these nukes start flying from Russia and other nations, this place is going to be wiped off the face of the earth. He also vowed to pursue similar arms control agreements with China, promising that Washington was committed to reducing the risk of costly, dangerous arms races. The Trump administration proposed a one-year extension to the agreement and demanded that a cap be placed on all nuclear warheads for that period. Moscow said it was willing to meet Washington halfway on the proposal, but the U.S. countered by demanding revisions to how the verification regime is carried out. Negotiations stalled, but the treaty was salvaged at the last minute after the new Biden administration made a policy U-turn. As we just read in Isaiah 55, verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but accomplish that which I please. No nuclear peace treaties or peace talks will do anything to avert that nuclear-armed third woe from taking place. So again, don't get your hopes up. Now I'm going to go to 2 Peter chapter 3, start at verse 1. Because even with the scriptures being broken down properly and correctly by the men of the Lord, the true prophets of the Most High, chiefly through GMS, a great millstone, you're still going to have people scoff until the very end, until they see those nuclear missiles flying in the sky. And it was stated as much in the scriptures. This second epistle, beloved, I now write unto you, in both which I stir up your pure minds by the way of remembrance, that ye may be mindful of the words which were spoken before by the holy prophets, and of the commandment of us, the apostles of the Lord and Savior, knowing this first, that there shall come in the last days scoffers walking after their own lusts. And we definitely see these scoffers walking after their own lusts today, walking after the ways of this world and scoffing against the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai and his prophets out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up video epistles like this and saying, where is the promise of his coming? Hey, my grandparents have been talking about nuclear wars since they were younger, and look, nothing's happened. And hey, look, new peace treaties are being signed, or old peace treaties are being renewed. You're just going to keep talking until you get old, and you know what? Nothing's going to happen then. For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they willingly are ignorant of, that by the word of the Most High the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of the waters and in the waters, whereby the world that then was, being overflowed with water, perished. The days of Noah, when the entire planet was flooded, and only Noah, his wife, his sons, their wives, and the animals on the ark survived, which is known as the first death in the scriptures. Verse 7, but the heavens and the earth, which are now, the times we're living in right now, the last seconds of these last days, by the same word are kept in store, reserved unto fire, that third woe, World War III, that nuclear fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. And this nuclear destruction that's coming is known as the second death in the scriptures. But beloved, be not ignorant of this one thing, that 1 day is with the Lord as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years as 1 day. The Lord is not slack concerning his promise, as some men count slackness. Hey, back in verse 4, and saying, where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. Hey, there's no way nuclear war could happen. People aren't that crazy. You're just going to keep talking like people have talked in the past. You're just a fearmonger. The Lord is not slack concerning his promises. Once more, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. One woe is past, and behold, there come 2 woes more hereafter. This current time reserved for fire against the day of judgment and perdition of ungodly men. That nuclear fire, that second death. But is long-suffering to usward, not willing that any should perish, but that all should come to repentance. Verse 10, but the day of the Lord will come as a thief in the night. Hey, for those scoffers and those that think the Most High is slack in bringing about his judgments and say things like, look, they have said these things have happened from the beginning, and look where we're at right now. They still haven't happened. In the which the heavens shall pass away with a great noise. And those heavens are talking about this current rulership of the Edomites, or so-called white people. Once those nukes start flying and Yahushua makes his second coming, that's going to be an end for the rulership of the heathens, chiefly the Edomites, and the beginning of the rulership of the true children of Israel, who are the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. And the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the earth also, and the works that are therein, shall be burned up. And what's going to melt the elements with fervent heat and burn up the works in the earth? Those nuclear missiles, which are going to be shot to the ends of the earth. And like I said earlier in the video, the 2 main combatants in this upcoming nuclear-armed third woe is going to be Russia and the United States of America, in which Russia, as well as its allies and the allies of the United States of America, which are going to turn against her and ally themselves with Russia, are going to shoot their nuclear missiles onto America and wipe it off the face of the earth. Now I'm going to play this quick video from RT's YouTube channel titled, American Admiral Claims U.S. is on the brink of nuclear war with who? Russia and China. Oh, really? Yes, really. Behold, 1 woe is past, and there come 2 woes more hereafter.
The US is on the brink of a nuclear war with Russia and China. At least that's the stark warning from America's Strategic Command Chief, the 4-star Admiral Charles Richmond.
The US military must shift its principal assumption from nuclear employment is not possible to nuclear employment is a very real possibility, and act to meet and deter that reality.
Well, the former UN weapons inspector Scott Ritter believes the warnings are a dangerous move.
If the United States dare uses nuclear weapons against Russian forces or on Russian soil, the Russians will have no choice but to respond. This is what makes the Admiral's statements about preparing for nuclear war so dangerous, because there is no way of containing it. If there is a nuclear war between the United States and Russia, it will be a general nuclear war, which means not only will both nations be annihilated, but the world will also be destroyed as we...
Which isn't the case. Russia and other nations, though they're going to get hit with nuclear missiles, are going to make it through, because those nations that survive are going to be the first slaves that the elect of the nation of Israel, when they come off the chariots, come to enslave so they can build up the kingdom of heaven. The only place that's going to be utterly wiped off the face of the earth is the United States of America.
States identified Russia and China as peer adversaries, requiring the buildup of conventional military power to adequately contain the threat they pose, both in Europe in terms of the Russians and in the Pacific in terms of the Chinese. As things currently stand, the United States does not have the conventional military force necessary to successfully engage with the guarantee of conventional victory, either Russia or China, which means that should there be a conflict, nuclear weapons would probably have to be employed on the part of the United States. It will take some time, but, we eventually got through the Cold War, and I'm hopeful we will eventually get through this.
Again, behold, one woe is past, and there come two woes more hereafter. There will be no getting through a second Cold War for the United States of America. This is Jeremiah 50, verse 9. For lo, I will raise and cause to come up against Babylon, the United States of America, Babylon the Great, that virgin daughter of Babylon, an assembly of great nations from the north country being Russia. And besides being known as the North Country in the scriptures, Russia is also known as the spiritual Medes, as well as Gog in Ezekiel chapter 38. And the reason Russia is known as the North Country is because what's north of the United States of America? Canada, then you've got the Arctic Ocean region, and then above that, Russia. And Russia shooting its missiles over the Arctic to hit its targets in the U.S. is the shortest trajectory time it would take for its missiles to reach the U.S. And that assembly of great nations are not only Russia's allies like China, Iran, and North Korea, but also the allies of the United States of America, which are going to turn against her in that day and ally themselves with the North Country to shoot their missiles onto Babylon the Great. Germany, France, Britain, these other NATO nations, etc., etc. And they shall set themselves in array against her. From thence she shall be taken. Their arrows shall be as of a mighty expert man, none shall return in vain. And those arrows are symbolic for those nuclear-tipped ICBMs, because what you have to remember is that when the prophets saw these visions thousands of years ago, they weren't going to tell you that they didn't know what a modern-day nuclear-tipped ICBM was, so they weren't going to say a Satan II or a Dong Fing in the scriptures. They were going to describe it the best way they could with what they knew during their times. Ancient weapons of war like bows and arrows, flying swords, spears, etc., etc. And these nations are going to shoot 200 million nuclear missiles onto the United States of America, which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. Now I'm going to close it out in Isaiah 13, verse 17 to 20. Behold, I will stir up the Medes against them, the spiritual Medes, the Russians, Gog, that north country, which shall not regard silver, and as for gold, they shall not delight in it. When the time comes for the Most High to put the Spirit on these different nations, especially these spiritual Medes, to push that red button and shoot those nukes, nothing will happen to stop them from doing so. No nuclear weapons bans, peace treaties, peace talks, you name it. Back in Isaiah 55, verse 11, so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please. Verse 18, their bows also shall dash the young men to pieces. And what do bows shoot? Arrows. Those bows are symbolic for the silos and other launch platforms that these nuclear weapons are going to be fired from. And they shall have no pity on the fruit of the womb. Their eyes shall not spare children. When those nuclear missiles hit the United States of America, the only people that are going to survive are the elect in America. And Babylon, the United States of America, the glory of kingdoms, the beauty of the Chaldees' excellency, shall be as when the Most High overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah. And how did the Most High overthrow ancient Sodom and Gomorrah? With fire and brimstone from the sky. And besides being known as Babylon the Great in the scriptures, the United States of America is also known as spiritual Sodom and Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. So he's going to overthrow this modern day Sodom and Gomorrah with modern fire and brimstone from the sky, those 200 million nuclear tipped ICBMs. And it shall never be inhabited, neither shall it be dwelt in from generation to generation. Neither shall the Arabian pitch tent there, neither shall the shepherds make their fold there. Again, after these nuclear missiles hit Babylon the Great, the United States of America, it's going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards that's going to stand as an eternal memorial as to what a wicked kingdom looks like and how not to govern the earth, and what the punishment is for afflicting the apple of the Most High's eye, the true children of Israel, who are again the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. So with this video, I hope you sincere Akim are edified. Just keep strong and keep pushing this word. We're almost out of this final wicked captivity of the heathen nations, chiefly of the Edomites. And I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.